YellowBird's an environmental health and safety marketplace. We place environmental health and safety experts across the country with high-risk environments and company environments, specifically for construction. I've been in the environment driven by environmental health and safety for 20 years of my career, primarily in satellite communications, but where you're in remote, high risk environments, you tend to find satellite. So I get to know that very, very well. I founded the company basically because I knew that there was a need for project-based safety and EHS needs. And I was fortunate enough to have a very opportunistic ride in an Uber. Then the gentleman was way overqualified to be driving me. And so when I got out of the car, I started thinking about all the other overqualified people that maybe should be doing something to leverage their hard-earned skills. Initially, I founded the company in end of July of 19. And started down that path, making sure that I understood what exactly we were doing. Within 2 or 3 months, I was looking around for a co-founder that had the skills and capabilities and passion that I do for what we're doing. I was introduced to Michelle through an accelerator here in town, and she and I just hit it off. And she brought so much to the table. I was very, very excited that she finally agreed to join me in this journey.
So we basically came together in September of 19, and our minimum viable website went up in November. So essentially our first task on a two-sided platform, it's always chicken and egg, which side do you build first? We decided the professionals would probably be a little bit more patient with us. So we decided to focus on building up an inventory first. And then in January, we turned on kind of for revenue customers because we'd hit 50 pros on the platform. We figured that was enough critical mass that we could say yes to any job that came our way. So I had a long career at Intel. I was there for 26 years. I started in the financial function. And after kind of working my way up to a pretty senior position in the Internet of Things, I moved sideways to be a GM and then did product. And my last role was in sales, again, in the Internet of Things. So I was probably in that space about 14 years. I left the company because I wanted to start my own consulting business. And what I quickly learned is it's very challenging. You're constantly looking to land your next few clients. And as luck would have it, I ended up working a bunch with startups. And I really loved and was kind of almost jealous of the progress they were making, the fact that they could use both my financial background, my product background, my marketing background. So I was really enjoying that. I then joined a startup and learned a lot in that experience, but left that 7 months in. And then decided rather than rebuild my consulting business, I'd join with Michael and kind of join forces to really, make this a formidable opportunity.
I am the quintessential entrepreneur. I've been investing. I've been an angel investor, but also a startup operator for most of my life. From the time I was a young boy making tie-dye T-shirts and selling them at concerts to the end of today, we're YellowBird. I've been involved in various startups. My background is actually, as I mentioned, satellite communications. I've done about 15, 20 years in SATCOM, but I also was in fiber optics in the early days of the internet startup revolution back in '94. And then I was part of a startup de novo bank. I've started an industrial company, which my wife runs now. So I have an interesting background, but all of my background has circled around startup ventures that use technology to help others. And that's what I'm most passionate about. And I've never quite experienced anything quite like YellowBird. It has been remarkable, truly.
Sure. So never as predicted, as usual. I think we had a very nice model that we solidified 6 weeks into revenue that charted our course for the year. And it promptly, got wrecked when COVID happened. And we had a situation where for March revenue, we were supposed to have 3 physical classes deployed, and we couldn't offer any of them because of the shutdown. So essentially, we're in restart mode. We did lock in some great customers, and Q2 revenue was 6x Q1. So, we certainly could not complain, but we definitely, as an executive team, kind of circled the wagons and said, how do we turn this into a positive? Because if anything, some of the words in our industry, like the PPE, is becoming a household word, or industrial hygiene. People actually care about worker safety, even in an office environment, which up until now, they didn't really put a big focus on it. So let's use that to our advantage and really look at growing the company. From a professional standpoint, what the economic downturn meant was we all of a sudden saw an explosion of people signing up to be put on our platform, specifically out of the oil and gas industry. There were a lot of layoffs. So we are far exceeding our goals on pro acquisition. That then now puts more stress on us to how do we amp up and put on steroids our company acquisition? Because again, we don't want it to be a negative experience where our pros are waiting around for their first job or multiple jobs. So with that, we've then started hiring. We've actually gone from 3 employees at kind of our foundation last fall to now 8, and we're looking at employees number 9 and 10 joining shortly, beefing up our product team and being on the technical side as we kind of continue to run on our own 2 legs after being out of the incubator. So what I love is it's like building a dream team. We're hiring people one by one and seeing how their unique personalities and skills fit into the broader company, and thinking about not just what do we need on paper, but knowing the candidates, what unique kind of things do we get as a bonus factor with each of these candidates. So unlike in a corporation where you get a reorganization and a 30-year team may not want to be there, we don't have any of that. I jokingly said to somebody, with COVID and people working from home occasionally, we feel it instantly if somebody's not being productive or if their head's not in the game, because we're still a small team.
Well, naturally, as a startup, it's always going to be capital. I mean, that's just going to be when you start a company, and I don't care who you are and how much success you have had. When you go from a napkin to actually creating a minimum viable product and making sure you find product market fit and all those very crucial things that you have to go through, very rare that you can find investors that are jumping on until you've proven some of the metrics. And so initially, obviously, finance is always a concern. And I think that's true with any startup. That being said, we were very fortunate to raise money quickly and have consistently had checks landing because of our progress during the pandemic. And so I'd say the second largest challenge that we've had is changing. We are truly disrupting an old school industry, an industry that was developed in the 70s based on OSHA regulations and OSHA laws. And so a lot of the people have an old framework of reference and how things are done. We're changing how things are done. And so I think as an organization, that's been the biggest challenge, is how do we communicate this to the market properly, showing that we have good intent and showing that we really are a better way of accomplishing an old method. And now we're starting to see true traction. Initially, it was the early adopters who said, yeah, maybe that would work. And now we're starting to see people who are signing up because other people are using us. So that's always fun.
I think, again, it's really been, we've just had amazing customers. So we're doing something fun as part of our end of the year, saying thank you to customers in the construction space by offering them a free seat in one of our courses to get one of their people certified for 2021 on the OSHA standards for construction. So we look at that and go, it's a great way, it's a win-win. We help them out, but also enable a model where we're paying it forward, and they'll see the quality of the platform of what the professionals that are delivering what we do here. So it's just things like that where I just feel really thankful that we have such amazing customers, and they've really put a lot of faith in us, and we've kind of said it's incumbent upon us to then execute and make them really happy that they chose to go with our model.
A couple of things. And actually, Michelle is one of those, not things, but people who prompted me to do it, because she was part, and she'll talk about that in a moment. But I know a number of successful startups in town, startup leaders, people who are involved in the startup community. And this particular group is known as being the creme de la creme of really giving tech startup entrepreneurs. And it's not just that you're entering into a group of elite people, but more importantly, you're entering into a community of people who you can trust and talk to. And every time I asked anybody, what's up with the startup collective? It was almost like this real cone of silence that you can't really talk about it, but they say, you can really trust the other CEOs to be honest with them and talk about your challenges and experience. And, we're looking for a senior dev person right now. And the first person that Michelle and I went to was a startup collective and says, hey, we're looking for a senior developer. Does anybody have any suggestions? Of course, everybody in the startup collective is also looking for that same person. So it didn't help us much, but it's kind of where we go for that purpose. And then a side story, Brandon Clark actually went from elementary school all the way through high school with my wife, and we found that out. I met her in California. We moved back here not that long ago. So Brandon's actually has known my wife since she was about 5 years old. So that I just had to be part of this group after that.
And so for me, I had gotten poked by a friend, and I think Christy Kerner as well. And I thought, I'm so busy, I'm startup CEO of a fintech. I don't know if I have time for this. And the more I looked into it and talked to current folks and alumni, they said, you would be a fool to pass up this opportunity. It's coaching exactly for the right time that you need. There's always going to be CEO circles or Vistage groups or, whatever flavor. But a lot of times those are much more mature companies or a mixed bag in what stage and how mature they are. With this collective, you're almost all at about the same phase as a business maturity, and you're facing a problem that probably 3 other people around the table are facing as well. So it's not only just bring out your problems and let's try to solve them together, but you can hear what other people have tried and what worked and what didn't work. I love that they bring in the founders and residents to share their experience because, again, they tend to be 5 or 10 years further ahead of you. And quite honestly, it's a lonely job at the top being a leader in a startup. And sometimes you need that, your wind in your sails refueled to be like, Mike and I do this for each other. There are days where you're just like, I feel like the fly on the windshield. What the heck just happened? And you got to talk yourselves through it. But not every startup has kind of the duopoly that we got. So I go, and I told him, again, go out and join this group because I can't think of a better way for us to continue to bring new ideas. And I'm active as an alumnus, but there's nothing like that cohort and the tightness you get with that group that you're matched with for the first year.
The diversity. I would say the diversity in the collective. I look at the group of tech startups that we're involved in and helping each other, and they come from all different backgrounds, doing all sorts of different things, and in different markets, that we're all using technology, but with the exception of that, there's not a heck of a lot of overlap, which is great. So that really did surprise me. I still joined because I could use a cohort of great people to bounce ideas off of, but the diversity really did pleasantly surprise me.
Yeah, and that's not a one-time deal. The year I went through, there were 14 of us, 6 women. And we literally got a picture at the retreat because I think in all the prior years, there was 1 female CEO. So we said something about that year, the popcorn started to pop, and now it continues forward. I know Michael's team is very diverse as well.
Yep.
But it's, again, the experiences and the backgrounds that people have had. There have been people, that can help us with the heavy tech industrial, because theirs is similarly aligned. There's folks that are software and platforms. And so we can kind of pull on different elements from those different aspects of our model and kind of see what helps our business the best. Well, we're setting some audacious goals for 2021. I think the biggest thing is just to really start, rocking and rolling on our repeat customers, trying to get more of our partnerships kicking into gear where we're starting to see, we were like just excited for a while there to get a job every week posted. Now we're doing multiple jobs every week. I'd love to see us get 10 plus jobs every week. We're doing a lot more jobs across the United States. We're starting to see some come in as postings that are virtual, which allow us to, again, reach a very broad set of our professional base and allow anyone to kind of raise their hand. I think the interesting thing in a year will be to see how many, has it been thousands of jobs that we've matched, and start looking at some of the data behind it. To me, there's just going to be starting to build this pool of data that could be very, very interesting. I had a pro raise a concern this week to me that he feels he's not getting work because when he sends his resume, it has dates on it and they can see how old he is. And I said, well, funny enough, unless it's a long-term gig with us, the company never sees a resume. So we're abstracting that. They don't know what gender you are, what color you are. It's really just you have the certifications and experience. You're in the pool of qualified candidates. And now we text that pool, and whoever is first to accept it is the one who gets it. So it's going to be really interesting to see with that data, how that leveling in the playing field really turns out. How does that both reward and shape our pro base?
It's we follow the entrepreneurial operating system, and so I'm kind of outward. I'm the visionary sort. I don't like to use that word because I'm embarrassed by it, but the reality is I'm outward looking, and I'm always trying to think of where we can go next. And the changes in the Uber regulations and the gig economy regulations open up a lot for us. The strategic opportunities that we have to leverage additional value-added services for our pros and cos on the platform are very, very interesting to me. We lower risk and therefore insurance premiums and things to that effect. So we have a nice play in with risk. So we're going to scale. We're going to scale exactly what we do, which is, in simplest of terms, getting the right people in the right locations, doing the right job on their terms. But in more complex terms, how do we take those right people in the right locations and give them the tools that they need to really wow their customer? And so that's what I'm going to be focused on for the next 24 months or so. That and raising money, because we're going to have to continue to fund this beast as we grow. It's amazing. With the more revenue, you need more people, and more people, you need more operating capital. So I will always be doing that, I know. But fortunately, I've got a great team that I can focus on that. So those are the two things that I'm focused on over the next couple of years, I suspect.
I think, we're in a really interesting spot in Arizona in that it's pretty fertile ground. So, I used to joke that, well, coming out of the desert, it's really tough, but once you kind of make it, you've made it. The good thing is, I think we're seeing a lot of tailwinds behind Arizona growth. We're seeing an influx of talent as people want to move from high cost geos like California to adjacencies like Arizona, where they can do lots of outdoor sports on the weekends and live in a cost affordable area. So there's lots of job growth. I think it's really incumbent upon the entrepreneur to figure out what is it that we're delivering? How do we get clear on that product market fit? And then there's plenty of opportunity here, both I think on the funding side as well as on the hiring side, and with things like the Startup Collective, where you get a unique set of support structures. I think there's a lot of potential for startups here in Arizona.
A couple of things. One, I would absolutely advise them to get going as quickly and as cost effectively as they can to see whether or not this thing that they have in their head actually has legs. And it's not that difficult to assess. It really isn't. Even if it's just like we made the 100 phone calls to 100 pros and 100 cos and just asked them, what do you think of this? So the first thing that I would say is, you don't have to be a salesman. All you have to do is say, I want to talk to you, and just ask you your opinion on this idea. And so that's the first thing I would say is, no matter where you are, get that under your belt, because it will give you fire or it will extinguish the fire, one of the two, but it will give you a North Star that you need to focus on. And the second thing I would suggest is, and I know this seems like a Michelle show right now, but really do find yourself a great co-founder. I found a great co-founder in Michelle, but really find somebody that you trust, that you can lean on. And we are each other's cheerleaders. And there are days that, I've been kicked in the teeth by a venture capitalist, and she says, you know what, get back up, you got this. And there are times that she's having an operational issue where everything seems to be going sideways. I'm like, you know what, it's not as bad as it looks. you need that. And so it's not just the difference in mindset, and roles, but it's also just having a teammate. The earlier you can find a good teammate that actually has the chops, and that's the other piece of the equation. Find somebody who has the chops. That is, and again, I know this is not an Arizona answer. This is a startup answer, but it's an important one. And I think those two things will make almost anybody get a better than average chance of being successful.
No, I'd say, I mean, I think the next cycle is coming up. So, and again, if people are thinking about it, reach out to either people in the cohort now or as alum to learn more about it. But typically the spring is when they're going through their vetting and picking the new class by May. So if you can get in, because it's a great learning opportunity.